Welcome back, friends, to another session of finite element methods for fluid dynamics. We have been looking at the formulation for a toy problem, a one dimensional second order equation, and I have been trying to explain you how we can approximate a weak formulation to a Galerkin form and then assume certain basis functions. We took a linear finite element space, then we generated a matrix form out of it, and in the last session and the one today we are going to look at how to implement this in an efficient manner. So, let me first review for you what we have done so far, and then we will go further. So, we started off by looking at the solution to this strong form uxx plus f equal to 0, and then we had a Dirichlet boundary condition at u1 is g and minus u comma x at 0 is h. So, this was the strong form of the problem, and from this we generated a weak form wherein we said that I must find a u that belongs to S such that for all w's that come from the space V, I must satisfy the following statement: A of w comma u is w comma f plus w at 0 times h. And then we went ahead and came up with a Galerkin form of the problem, and the Galerkin form was simply the approximation of these spaces to finite dimensional space. So, we had SH which is a subset of S and VH which is a subset of V, and then we proposed that UH is given as VH plus GH, and VH is actually a subset, is a member of the space VH. So, we were able to come up with a unified space for the trial functions and for the weight functions, and we substituted that in the weak form and we were able to get an approximation. So, we came up with the Galerkin form, which is actually an approximation to the weak form, which we had shown is equivalent to the strong form. Next, we tried to do the matrix form, and for the matrix form we assumed the following. We said let NA, these are the basis functions, and we proposed that WH is given as summation CA and A, where A goes from 1 to n. And likewise, we were able to say that my VH goes from summation B from 1 through n, dBs and Bs. And then I made another observation that let GH be given as G times n plus 1. So, I introduced another basis functions n plus 1, and using these two I was able to write that my UH is summation B going from 1 to n plus 1 NB dB. Okay. And then we chose the piecewise linear finite element space. So, if this is the x axis between 0 and 1, we actually came up with discretizing this into several element level domains. So, each one of them, so let us look at element number E. It consists of nodes A and nodes A plus 1, and the coordinates of these are xa and xa plus 1. And for this, the shape function was defined to be a hat function given like this. So, it is 1 in a very local support and it is 0 elsewhere. So, this was an A. Using these types of linear basis functions, we were then able to write down the matrix form, and let me recall for you we came up with the matrix form as Kd equal to F. So, this was the matrix form. Here the idea is that we form the stiffness matrix, we form the force vector, and then we can calculate D as K inverse F. And we realize for this finite element type of basis functions, then K is tridiagonal. And we were able to get the explicit forms of, so K was given as KAB, which is an n by n matrix, and KAB was A of NA and B. Similarly, the force vector F had elements like Fa, and this was an n, a vector with n rows, a column vector, and we had Fa with several terms, actually 3 terms to be precise. The first term was because of this F here, okay, so it was a term which had something like this, and A comma F, and then there were 2 more terms. One is because of the G type condition, and the other is because of the H type condition. So, I am not writing them here, but you can look at your notes from the earlier session. There were 3 terms in this, and once we can form these, then we can solve for D. That was the whole idea. But we realized that there are better ways of implementing this. So, we talked about the element point of view. So, each of these elements here from xa to xa plus 1 was mapped to a local domain. So, what we did was that if this is my global point of view, so this is xa to xa plus 1, and this is my element E. This I was able to map to another, I did another transformation, the xi axis, and this was from xi 1 to xi 2, and we said xi 1 can be minus 1, xi 2 can be plus 1, and each of this element was transferred to these local coordinates. Okay. And the transformation was given as that xi is a function of x, and of course, we can also come up with the inverse transformation that given a xi, can I form the x. Okay. So, this transformation is the same from one element to the other. So, it is like a template. We were also able to write down the notation which said something like this. So, if I have dA as an unknown at node A, I could also write it as d1, but so this would be dA for the element E. Okay. So, the idea was that the A subscript, it goes from 1 to n, whereas the subscript small a goes from 1 to NEN, where NEN is the local number of nodes in each element. So, let me write that for you here. So, NEN corresponds to local number of nodes per element, and in this case this is 2 for this very special case of 2 nodes per elements. We were also able to write approximations for UH and WH. So, we were able to write that WH is given as C1 N1 plus C2 N2 at the local element level. Similarly, UH was given as D1 N1 plus D2 N2, and these are actually functions of xi. Okay, so, we were able to do these interpolation at the element level in the xi coordinates, and then we were able to come up with some recipes of how to do the integration. So, that is where we were in the last session, and let us take on from there. So, we realized that if I want to do a calculation of a quantity like KAB, that is actually an integral over the whole domain, which is from 0 to 1 in a comma x and b comma x dx. And we realize that because we have chosen a piecewise linear finite element space, so these quantities are going to be discontinuous across the element boundaries. So, to calculate the integral, we felt it might be a good idea to split it into element level integrals. So, we can, for example, go for element number 1 and this integrand times dx plus over element number 2 and so on all the way to the last element, which would be NEL. So, these are the subdomains for each element. Okay. Just to say it more explicitly, omega 1, if you remember, if I put the closed domain, that would be x 1 first element to x 2 first element. Okay. In fact, this is the first element. So, this also corresponds to simply x 1 and x 2 in this notation over here. So, this point is x 1, this is x 2, this is x 3 and so on. Okay. Likewise, I could talk about domain E. This would correspond to x 1 E. So, the local value of x first node for the element E to x 2 E, and this I know is actually given as x E to x E plus 1 in a global sense. Okay. And likewise, the last element, this domain would be domain x, the first node would be NEL and the last one is NEL plus 1, which actually you know that NEL is equal to n in this particular case. Number of nodes plus 1 is number of nodes is n plus 1, n is the number of elements which I am denoting by NEL. But you realize this may not be always the case. This is a special case for piecewise linear elements. If I have chosen quadratic elements, then it is possible that each element may contain more than 2 nodes. Specifically, a quadratic element would contain 3 nodes per element. So, NEN would become 3, okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, so, we looked at KAB, which is a sum of all these integrals. Let me write this for you more explicitly. So, KAB can actually be written as the integral over the domain omega E, but we will have to now sum it over all elements. So, E goes from 1 through number of elements, and the integrand would be n a comma x and b comma x dx. I can write this in a little bit more compact notation. So, I can say that this integral here would be this bilinear operator a na comma nb, but notice now it has to be evaluated at each element. It is an element level integral, and therefore, I will also put a summation that E goes from 1 through NEL. So, this is my notation that when I put a superscript E, it implies that my domain of integration is simply the element level domain. And I could do a similar thing for F. Okay. So, now what I have is K, my stiffness matrix. I am able to now write it as summation over all elements 1 to NEL, and this is KE, where KE is still the stiffness matrix, but it has contributions only from the element E, and that, as you can see, is given as A times Na Nb E. So, Ke is also a full matrix which is n by n, but then Kab is actually A of Na Nb at this element level E. Okay. And likewise, I can propose that my F is actually going to be summation, my F is going to be a summation of all these Fes, and E go from 1 to NEL. And I can now write down the expression for FAE as we had done in the last class. These are all integrals over the element level domain. The point to note is that each of these Fes is again a full matrix. So, K is a full matrix n by n and Fes are n by 1, but they contain contributions only from the element. And in the last class we observed that really speaking, we do not need to store the entire matrix. A 2 by 2 matrix would suffice. So, let me remind you that in the last class we saw that Ke has a structure like this. So, if this is my n by n matrix and I look at my rows number E and E plus 1, likewise I look at my columns E and E plus 1, then these are the entries that I have. So, this little part is the only one that I am going to store, and this I am going to call as Ke. Similarly, if I look at F, that would be an n cross 1 matrix, in fact Fe, but only a small part of it, E and E plus 1. These are the only two non-zero quantities, all others are 0. So, I can write zeros here, and this little guy is actually Fe. So, in today's lecture, this is what we are going to look at. We had done this earlier, but I thought I will explain it to you in a little bit more detail. So, K is given as summation of Ke over all elements, and F is given as summation of Fe over all elements. Okay. But we do not want to store Ke, we want to store little Ke, and we want to store little Fe, which are 2 by 2 and 2 cross 1 vectors. And now you will see that this does not remain a summation anymore, and this would actually become the assembly operator. So, A is the assembly operator. So, the idea is the following: we loop over all the elements. Suppose we are on element number E. For that element we form the small Ke, which is a 2 by 2 matrix. We form the small Fe, which is a 2 by 1 vector, and then we use the idea of this assembly operator, which I am going to lay it out for you, and put this Ke at the right locations and add them to the values that already exist. Okay, so basically in today's class we are going to talk about the assembly operator. Okay. To do this, we came up with some new set of arrays. And this was known as the location matrix array, which is also called the LM array. This is a two-dimensional array, and the first index of it goes from 1 through NEN. The second index goes through 1 to number of elements. As you know, NEN is the number of local nodes per element, and NEL is of course the number of elements. And this element array gives us the equation number. So, P is the equation number. So, towards the end of the last session, we had looked at an example where I gave you this array. So, we will look at it again, and then I will show you the assembly operator. So, very quickly, just to write down for you what the LM array will be for our present problem. So, this is our mesh, node 1, 2, 3, all the way to node n plus 1. So, these are my node numbers. So, these are node numbers. I would also like to write the element numbers. So, this is element 1, this is element 2, and maybe I can write down here as element E, and that corresponds to nodes E and E plus 1. Okay. And of course, the last but one node is N, and this last element is N, or you can call it NEL, they are both interchangeable. Next, I want to write down my equation number in a square box. All these nodes have an equation number except the last one. The last one is a Dirichlet type node, the value is known there, so there is no equation number. So, this equation number is 1, this is 2, this is 3, all the way, and this equation number is 0, the final equation. And of course, the second last one does have an equation, and that is N. So, we can now construct the LM array. So, LM array has two dimensions. The first dimension I will call as A, which actually goes from 1 through NEN, and the second one is E, which goes from 1 through NEL. So, let me write down the LM array, at least some members of it. So, this is A, and this can take a value 1 or 2. On the other side, I have E, which takes the value 1, 2, 3. I will skip some in between. I will write this for E, and then I will write two more, which is N and N minus 1 and N. So, this is N minus 1. The LM array for the first element. So, this is the first element, and it consists of two nodes, local node 1, local node 2, and it has the equation numbers 1 and 2. So, I will put these equation numbers. Likewise, for element 2, I put these two equation numbers as 2, 3. For element 3, these would be 3, 4. When I come to element E, the equation numbers are E and E plus 1. For the last element, the equation numbers are, the first node has equation number N, and the second node has equation number 0. Likewise, for the second last element, N minus 1, you will notice that this has equation number N and this has N minus 1, and so on. So, that is my LM array. It basically maps my data set from given an element. So, this is the element. I can see which is the first node, which is the second node, and then read from it, from this lookup table, that what is the equation number. The equation number is actually going to take me inside the K matrix and inside the F matrix. So, let me now show you how we can assemble it.